we're Team 5, Risky Business. This is the website that we have started creating to assess a company's insider threat program. So basically we broke it down by categories, and each category was based on our roles, and they all have different questions. As a security operating center, we basically looked at if they have a malware, if records are being recorded, if threats are sorted by true or false, if threats are being documented. As IT risk analyst, employees and the amount of access they have should be censored, and questions to evaluate what external vendors and parties are involved were created. As information security officer, how will systems be notified in notify companies of an attack? And is regular compliance being followed? Information encryption is also looked at. As cyber threat analyst, does social media have access? Have you tested employees with false information and are computers monitored is looked at. Compliance is based on making sure employees have read and been updated on policies and regulations and whether insider threat training is being done. And as behavioral analyst, employees' actions inside and out of the workplace are looked at, along with their stress level and any disabilities that they have.
And so we decided to purchase a website so that we could put all of our efficacy program on an actual website interface. Currently we're working on the HTML and the backend Python stuff, and we're trying to get something to you guys by Friday, at least something that's an example that you could look at to see like where we're going with it. So all the stuff that we're doing in the background is in Python, and we decided to create a matrix to help us work on like putting together some type of number to the risk. So we decided to have a scale 1 through 5, 5 being the highest risk, and 1 being no risk. So the first table that we created was an ID table. This just gives every single one of the roles an ID number, so it can be followed through the other tables. So for example, 1 being compliance. So we move down to questions. This is where we're going to put our actual questions based on our role in the categorical section. So each one of these is going to get an ID number based on how many questions we have. Say for example, we have 48 questions. There will be 48 in the IDs. The category ID pulls from this ID up here. So for example, if the first 2 questions are for compliance, then there will be 2 ones. So these 2 questions relate back to compliance. And then from this table, it goes and pulls to the answer. The answer will have just as many ID numbers as the questions will, because there will be an answer to every question. The question ID will go back to relate it to the description, which would be our roles again. And the questions can either be answered as yes, some, none, or there are questions that are 1 through 5, or like they have numbers or percentages attached to them. All of our questions have some way that we can scale them, and that's how we're able to give them a number. And this pulls down to the impacts. Impacts is the risk. So all of the ID numbers are given again, and then we're giving an answer ID, which goes back to here. These are just connecting these 2 tables so that we can connect what the number was from the yes. So for example, this one was yes, and that would have an impact of 1, so no risk. So for example, is the first question, has every employee read the policy? Yes. Yes would be 1 out of 5, which would be no risk for the company. And this just goes down the table to make sure like everything has an assigned value to it. And then at the end of it, we're going to take all of the values and divide them by the number of questions, and we'll get a number out of 5. And that's it. So we made our business URL. It's riskybusinessualbany.us. This is what we want our interface to look like when we have the website actually up and running on a database. Right now it's currently on a local host. We want a pre-assessment, a checkup survey that we want the company to take every 3 months. And these are the categorical. Eventually we'll try to have a post survey, but right now we have these 3. The categorical was more of what this week's program was, what we had to design for this week. So these would have all of the roles in them. For example, we took the security operations officer. So what would happen is you would click on categorical, and categorical would bring down a bunch of different options for you to choose from. So So say you chose Security Operations Center, you would hit show, and all of these questions would come up underneath them. The questions would be like, do the computers have antivirus and malware? And you would have options such as yes and no, which would go back to the score. And you have a question like, have all access data times been logged? You'd have yes, some, no. And then the company would go through and answer all of these questions and then submit it, and they could show less and go to different options. We wanted to make a pre-assessment because that would show us what the company needs to work on. And the checkup survey is so if they did work with us, we would have something to base their original survey off of and to see how they would get better.